Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Mason Temple. You, of course, will recognize him from Netflix's Ginny and Georgia. Mason, welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this, man.
Hey, no problem.
It's a crazy time. Every time, a show drops, you're kind of not sure what's gonna happen. It's always different experiences depending on who you're working with. This dropped, exploded on Netflix. 190 countries got a chance to see it. I mean, does it still kind of sink in these days about the popularity that show kind of had right off the bat? Like, it's pretty crazy.
I mean, it's so like I go to university and like it's only now really sinking in because if I don't have my mask on, like I'm eating something on campus, I'll get a bunch of people that are like, or I remember one time in one of my classes, this person, we're friends now, but this person just screamed when she realized who I was, threw the mask, my hat, glasses, and everything. Mm-hmm. Sorry, my dog is freaking out with this.
No problem.
She realized off of my voice, she was like, "Oh my God, I hated you so much, Ginny and Georgia. This is the best day ever." And it's like, all right.
But it's interesting too because you're going, you have a script, you're doing it, you're kind of making the show, and you kind of maybe have this idea because it's that love triangle and everything with Ginny, and you have this idea of like, wow, people are not going to like me. But I mean, it's one thing for it to actually kind of happen, right? Like,
yeah, like I've experienced a variety of opinions. Most of them over Instagram, but now being in person somewhere in person where there are people that love the character. Most people hated the character, but they're like, cool. They're like, you did a great job in playing a character that everyone hates. I had one person tell me that I didn't deserve to be in the program I'm in because I'm a celebrity. And I'm like, I don't know. I was at UBC before all this, so like I don't know. But
are you studying like what are you studying at UBC?
Creative writing.
Okay.
Basically
in the realm of, I guess.
Yeah, in the realm. On the show, Tony and I, we got to heavily influence, and Sarah would say even write, that really controversial scene.
Yes.
Which I don't know. I've kind of spoken. I've said my piece about it, but basically, I've never had anyone empower me in my words. Especially not like the way Sarah and Deb did. So right after that, I applied to join UBC and then pursue creative writing with them in hopes of developing that voice because, yeah, I never thought anyone would care about the biracial perspective whatsoever.
For sure.
I was 100% like, yes, we will never have our time. We will never be able to speak this experience because no one cares and no one will believe me.
Yeah.
And then people cared. What do you know? So
when did you officially, do you remember the date of like when you wrapped the show? Because there was a bit of like a standstill in terms of when it was wrapped and when it actually launched, right? Like there was some leeway.
I remember my last day on set, I believe that was December 10th, 2019. And I remember the last day in Toronto.
Yep.
I believe the wrap party was at the 14th or the 13th.
It's one of those days.
I remember like the entire end stretch just because it was like, I mean, is this happening? Was this even real?
That became
like,
one
this
of
was an incredible experience. So
that became one of those shows that just had so many people that like I either knew personally or I recognized. Like it was too much at one point. It was like, people like Rhea Black and Umberly Gonzalez, and then a lot of people that I reckon, like, so I know them personally, but then it was like people like that I saw on Degrassi all the time, Jennifer Robertson.
That's that Ontario thing going on, like.
It was just one of those things. Nathan Mitchell from The Boys with Black Noir. I don't know. It was just like, it was too much at one point. It was like.
I gotta be honest. I didn't recognize anyone from anything. I had never seen Friday Night Lights. I had never seen The Boys at that point. And also, you don't really see Nathan's face. I have seen The Boys now. Love it.
Yeah.
I had never seen Degrassi other than, I think, the one scene where Drake gets shot. because you're not a Canadian if you haven't seen that.
Oh, for sure.
And that's like part of the immigration package, I think. And yeah, I I didn't know who anyone was. And I felt so like such a fish out of water. I remember that first read, and all these like a lot of the young actors who now I know that they know each other because of Degrassi are all talking to each other. And then there's like some of the older folks and whatnot. It was Damien who was the first person to talk to me, and he was just trying to be friends. He's so bro-y. I was just like, oh, this is so Toronto. Yeah. Hey, what's up, fam? And all this stuff, broski. Relax. But I was expecting that because I'd been to Toronto once before, and everyone talks like Drake in Toronto. It was my first impression. And he was 100% doing that, and that was really weird. But now we're like great buds. And I remember when I met Nikki, I just went into she's one of the first people I met, actually.
Yeah.
She's getting her hair dyed in the hair and makeup trailer. And I just walk in because Sarah wants to get a photo of like me, Felix, Tony. And that was also the first time I met those two. And yeah, I remember everything like it was yesterday, because honestly, it felt like it was yesterday, and it also feels like it was 100 years ago.
It's crazy too, but then it's crazy to me how specifically like on Netflix how quick they hit, because they do have this big access and this big platform that's just like a global platform essentially, and like 190 countries get to see it, and just kind of seeing all the socials and like not only like you getting to like 300K like that to me, like that's awesome, but the fact that like that 300,000 like follower you have on Instagram is a pie cut of like probably like
Felix has like 3 million or something.
Yeah, but the thing is, no, but all the countries, like it's a lot of people from all over the world, right?
Yeah, I look at the split of like where people are from.
Yeah,
it's like the most is from, it was Brazil, but now it's Mexico City. So it was Sao Paulo. But I can see some of the cities, and that's still like under. Well, I think Mexico is like 1.6%, but still, that's just like that's it. That's a tiny fraction. I'm getting chirped from all over the world.
It is
I'm
crazy.
getting chirped from people that are speaking, I assume Russian, and I don't know what they're saying, but I know they're making fun of me because they're using some English words.
Well, yeah, not the most loved character.
No,
I think people have a hard time of obviously realizing that all that means is that you're a great actor.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I'm trying to put it in a spin, like, okay, so they hated the character, but I mean, like, let's take it back here. Like, people come to my profile and like, oh, I'm really surprised how cool you are compared to how Hunter is. Like, thanks. Like, I guess I committed to the character, and I think he's adorable. I don't think he's the patron saint of cringe, as I know Gen Z has defined him as to me, but hey, whatever. I committed to it, and we'll see. We'll see. So far, I don't know. It's still early on in my career. So.
We talked before we started. You're from Vancouver. Hockey's around the corner in terms of starting. You're a Canucks fan. I was just curious in terms of not actually like talking about hockey in the season, but more in terms of like, did you notice at one point the instant kind of tandem and tag team between like TV and film and like that pop culture realm and like the sports realm? Like, for example, you posted a photo of yourself in a Canucks jersey, and then you had all these people kind of like asking about the Canucks because they maybe didn't know about them, or you had all this thing. Like, I'm just curious if you kind of noticed that there, and then there's athletes, and there are athletes friends and girlfriends that watch Ginny and Georgia like that. I've always found that interesting, like that kind of tag team between the two.
Right. I didn't notice really much. Like, I guess, I mean, when I posted anything about like me wearing a hockey jersey or something, it was more so like any Canadian would be like, talking crap.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, oh, yikes, gotta get you in a Habs jersey. That's disgusting, or something like that. But I mean, like, since it's hockey, unless it's Canadians, it's like most people around the world are like, oh, he is Canadian. Like that's about it, Yeah, I don't know. No one from the team has reached out.
Does it excite you a little bit though that you do have this kind of opportunity to so and so you have this like global platform, right? And I found that interesting because I did see some people like, oh, I think this is a hockey. Like I saw a lot of people like commenting on that post. That was a very
Right.
popular post.
I mean, I suppose it was. I don't know. I don't post often now, and anytime I do, it's like either my dog or like something that I don't know, something or other. So I gotta be honest. I turned off my notifications for anyone I don't follow, just because like that wave of
Yeah.
attention was was pretty rough.
But it could be over.
Like,
But in a serious note as well, like there's like the positive aspect of it is huge, right? Like, oh my god,
oh,
it's quick.
absolutely.
But it can be overwhelming. I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
Especially if you're your hunter on screen, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, basically, like I don't know. I tried to keep it open for as long as I could, and just the notifications were a lot. But then I don't know. It just it got to a point where it was like, okay, there's no point to reading these comments because it's just like a bunch of 14-year-olds doing their best, like their best to try to like hurt my feelings. And it's just like, you're 14, like we're all gonna die when I'm 30, so like you're gonna be like what? Like 20, like congrats, welcome to the world, welcome to the real world. Our parents destroyed it. So I don't know. It's like I just don't have the energy to read through all the comments, and I hope people understand that. Like when you get hit with 100,000 like people trolling you every
but you're not,
day,
and you're not like exaggerating. That's the crazy thing about it. Like you're not.
And here's the thing, like I actually don't know what the count is in my DM requests. That thing's unusable. So like if anyone out there ever like if you reached out in my DM requests, or if someone else reached out in my DM requests, I never received it, and it just got hit in a wave of like happy Fridays at the end of the week.
So that was probably me, right? Messaging you when it came up to do an interview, and then I had you big time me, and I had to email.
Oh, did you actually reach out?
Probably, yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Because yeah, like that thing is unusable.
Yeah, but it was weird because I remember like trying to reach out when you were at like it was a couple of days after it was out. So I think you were at like 8K, 9K, like it was getting up. And then like it blew my mind. At one point I go back to your profile, I swear, Mason, and it was like 92K. And I'm like, it feels like this was like 20 hours, like not even 24 hours. Like it was weird to me. Like
it was like that. I remember like the first hour and it was already unusable because I mean like the difference between 1 million DMs and 1,000 DMs is both are unmanageable. Like by the time you hit like 1,000 DMs in like every 2 minutes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. You're not looking through that.
No, it's crazy. Awesome. You're doing creative writing right now, UBC. I mean, obviously, of course, like Ginny Georgia is not it's not horror thriller, but I'm curious, are you a fan of horror stuff and thriller stuff?
I am. Actually, my favorite genre is horror.
Yeah.
I'm so picky about it. I think it's all right. I think that and comedy are the hardest genres to write. I think those are and direct and act and all that. And I think those are the most moving.
Okay, so I need to ask you. So I love horror as well. I mean, the genre blows my mind. It's becoming one of those things where I think the ones that are really scaring me the most are the ones that don't really rely on like the jump scares and like the gore. Not. Yeah,
I saw a comedian say a jump scare is like if I went down in the audience and tickled you. That's exactly it.
Yeah,
scares are garbage. I mean, they're fun as an element to put in. Like I remember I was watching like Loki, and the minutes jump scare. It didn't get me, but I'm like, that's hilarious. That's excellent. But that's not horror, you know?
So there's obviously a difference between Mason Temple's favorite horror film and the scariest movie that Mason Temple has seen, right? Those are two different things. So for me, I'm not sure what my favorite horror movie of all time is. It's probably like a top 10, but I know the scariest one I've ever seen, and I'm curious to see your take on it because you're pretty serious about your horror. Have you seen The Strangers? With Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman, The Strangers.
Let me Google the
It was it was like a home invasion movie. They're in the middle of nowhere.
I think, yeah, I think I saw this.
I talked to Richard Harmon from the 100 about this recently, and he was basically saying, he's from Vancouver as well. He was basically saying he agrees it was like terrifying. That movie scared the hell out of me.
Right.
That movie, Masks.
That movie's not really my
Well, I did an escape room before the pandemic, and they thought it was a funny idea. It was a horror movie. It was a horror themed escape room, and it was like there was a murder, and the daughter died or something, and you're in a house, and they thought it was a great idea to have the people working at the escape room with the masks from the strangers, like outside.
That's rough.
Oh, yeah. It was rough. And you know what they did? It was very smart, but they had a scene where you had to get like a locket from the sink and it was like stuck. So you had to like pull it. But they had like a window like in front of the kitchen area. So like you're taking the locket out and you're looking down. And then when you look up, there's a window there and the person's like right in front of you.
Very good.
Yeah, I know, right? Do you want to write a horror movie? Like, is that something you thought about? Like, are you interested in that at all?
I mean, I'd love to, but I don't have a single horror idea in my mind slate. I do have a slate of ideas in my head, put them in the vault of ideas, but nothing that's horror for me. I mean, I tried to write a short film that was horror back last year from one of my classes. And it was surrounding more of the idea. It became more of like a thriller crime thing, because it followed the idea around a guy who he kills his brother out of this fit of rage because he gets bullied by his brother all the time, and then steals his identity. Busts his face open with like a toaster that he finds, and then he tries to like live a new life with this identity, but then he ends up with the same kind of violent outburst in a bar fight. And he steals that guy's identity. And then I kind of just set up so this is going to be a cyclical thing. It's a commentary on how we pass down trauma and toxic masculinity, but it didn't really feel like horror to me. I don't.
Sounds more of like a genre bending thing. It feels like you're throwing a lot of things in there.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like cerebral, but it wasn't quite horror to me. Like for me, I guess to use your categories for horror, my favorite horror film is The Thing by John Carpenter. I just think that's like the smartest horror film I've ever seen.
Was that 82? Did that come out in the 80s? Or was that earlier?
It was it Kurt Russell? No. Was it?
I'm trying to think when that was. Yeah. Was that 80s or 90s?
I think it was definitely 80s. I was like, is it 79 or is it 82? Like in that
It might be 82.
It's 82.
Okay. I'm not okay. That's a great one.
That film is like you could see it as an allegory for maybe AIDS. Like it's a really interesting film to me, but it's not the scariest film I've ever seen.
What's the scariest film you've ever seen?
Insidious is still by far the scariest thing. But
really
corny as hell. But just the sheer fact that like getting lost in a dream forever. Oh my god! Like I just had a dream about an ex-girlfriend of mine, and I just got kind of lost in it. Like I remember waking up and then falling back asleep. I was back in the dream. I'm like, God, get me out of here.
Remember the dancing boy in the Insidious movie? Do you remember that? I always get Insidious and Conjuring sometimes mixed up. I think it's Insidious. The scene.
Is Patrick Wilson in The Conjuring as well now?
He is. Yes. Yeah, there's a scene where it's like a little boy dancing, and they have Tiny Tim Tiptoe and the tulips in the background.
No, I don't think that's like Insidious.
I think that's Insidious. Yeah,
he's got the red face, and he's just always like showing up and like in the back. So
yeah, I know. People said that looked like Darth Maul from Star Wars.
Yeah, it looked like a really scary young Darth Maul.
It did, no, for sure. Thanks so much for taking some time, man, to come on Popternative. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, no problem.
People can follow you on Instagram, right? That's where it
happens. I got a Twitter that I don't use because people are mean on Twitter.
What's the handle on Instagram? People want to follow you and add to that big account.
Yeah, at the empty life. I should always like everyone always asks what's the empty life. My initials MT.
Oh,
empty.
That's great. That's wow. Okay, I didn't think of that at all. To be honest,
I'm not just some sad boy. I am also a sad boy. But
That's awesome. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Mason Temple and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.